Assalamualaikum and hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of our favorite Sembang Santai. Today, we actually already at episode 49. Almost 50 episode, guys. Not bad, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. When we started this Sembang Santai series, the idea was simple. We just wanted to talk about IoT in a way that feels normal. Not too technical, not too corporate. Not the kind of discussion where people listen for 5 minutes then suddenly feel sleepy. Boring kan? We want a conversation, a real one. And today, I think we have one of the most personal topics so far. The title is What It Really Takes to Build an IoT Startup After 50. That's me. Okay.
Only Zura.
Only. Yeah. Some people think startup founders must be very young. Very, like to say, fresh graduates, wearing hoodies, working from cafes, drinking iced latte, sleeping 3 hours a day, pitching to investors with big dreams and bigger slides. But today, we want to ask another question. What if the founder is already 56? What if he has worked in universities, telco companies, and national research agencies? What if he already has a stable career, a good title, and predictable income? What if people expect him to slow down, but instead he start a technology company? Wow, that is the story we want to unpack today. The story that I've read in Dr. Mazlan's article recently. And of course, the person who can answer this best is our guest, Dr. Mazlan Abbas himself, the co-founder and the CEO of Favorite. Assalamualaikum and welcome back, Dr. Mazlan. Woohoo!
Okay, Waalaikumsalam Zura. Thank you for having this again. Episode 49 already, So like the title mentioned, we start again after 50. So this is our 49 episode, guys.
Oh yeah.
49 episode.
Wow.
So I think we should start charging people who appear too many times. I've been appearing so many times, Zura.
Doctor, chill. You are our permanent guest. Okay, there's no need appointment. Just come in, sit down and talk. So, but today's topic is quite personal, right, Doctor?
Okay.
You started Favorite at 56. Many people at that age are thinking about retirement, golf, travel, grandkids, lari-lari, gardening, or at least slow down lah. But you went the opposite direction. You started a startup. Oh gosh. So let me begin with this simple question. Was it courage? Was it madness? Or your midlife crisis, Doctor? Macam gitu. Midlife crisis ke?
Maybe all three.
Okay.
Maybe all three. The courage is there, the madness is there, and also that midlife crisis. But seriously, I did not see it as a midlife crisis.
Okay.
I saw it is actually at the beginning of my another chapter. So at 56, I had already gone through many roles in life. I was in the academia. I was in the telco.
Yes.
I was also involved in research. I had seen how technology is being discussed, being planned, funded, and sometimes project have been delayed.
Okay.
So after many years, I started to ask myself one question: Am I only going to talk about technology, or am I going to build something?
Okay.
So that question stayed with me. Sometimes we attend conferences and talk about the future. We talk about smart cities, IoT, talk about AI, digital economy, IR 4.0. But after the event ends, we go home. So the slides remain as slides. The ideas stay as ideas.
Yes.
So at some time, I felt that I needed to do more than speak. I needed to build.
You need to be a snowman?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Why not?
Why not?
You find in the right place.
Well, actually, that's powerful, Doctor. Because many people have knowledge. Many people have experience. But taking the knowledge and turning it into a company is a different game altogether. It is not just about knowing the technology. It is about risk, salary, cash flow, sales, customers, rejection, product market fit. And sometimes people will ask, why start so late? Macam bagus why start so late?
Yes. I think, but maybe the better question is, why not?
Okay, very positive.
So people always say young founders have energy. Okay, that's true. They have that energy, but older founders have something else, something unique. They have this what we call the knowledge, the pattern recognition. The pattern recognition. I mean, you have seen how organizations have behaved, for the number of years that in your career. You understand how decision makers think. Yeah, you have been there. You know that technology alone does not really sell. You know that buyers do not always buy the best product. They buy what they trust. They buy what they understand and what solves a painful problem.
Okay.
So that's how the buyers thinking lah kan. So at 56, I did not start from zero.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I started with more than 30 plus years of accumulated experience. So the mistake is thinking that experience is just history. So we don't want that to be part of the history. So actually, experience can become the fuel, become your knowledge of going forward.
Why not leverage it?
Yeah, why not leverage it?
So doctor, in your article that I've read too, there is a quote from Steve Jobs. It says, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. When we look back at your life, there were many dots. Your father repairing radios and TVs. Your studies in electrical engineering. Your master in telematics. Your PhD in telecommunications. Then Celcom, MIMOS, and then Favorite. At that time, did you know that all these things were preparing you for entrepreneurship?
No, not at all. So when you are living your life forward, you don't see the pattern. So you gedah aja kan.
Yes.
So you just do what is in front of you.
Correct.
So when I studied, for example, engineering, electrical engineering, I did not say that one day I will build an IoT company. IoT as we know today did not even exist at that time.
Correct.
In my time lah.
Yes.
So when I was teaching, I focused on explaining technical subjects. So when I was in Celcom, I learned about mobile networks, billing, R&D, mobile data services. So when I was in MIMOS, I learned about research. I learned about research direction, the methodology, the national technology programs, and how the ideas from lab to market. So only later then did I realize each phase of my career gave me something. So when you look at academia, taught me how to explain things clearly. So the telco taught me the real implementation and how to scale. So research taught me the future thinking, and my father taught me practicality. I mean, my late father, he repaired radios and TVs at night. So he was not formally trained as an engineer. So he was a clerk in fact, but he understood machines. He showed me how the technology is not only theory. Technology must work in real life lah. So that kind of lesson stayed with me lah.
Okay, wow, I like that. Technology must work in real life. So sometimes in IoT, people get too excited about sensors, dashboards, protocols, and AI. But when we go to the field, doctor, suddenly the problem is very simple actually. No power, no network, wrong casing, no one wants to maintain the device, the user forgot the password, or the person who asked for the project has been transferred to another department.
Exactly. I think that's the reality in life lah. So that is why real technology companies must understand both sides of the coin. So in one side, the technical side, and also the human part, the human side. So a solution can look very beautiful in demos lah. So but the real test is actually outside the meeting room.
Correct.
So when they're outside the meeting room, you will see the heat, the rain, the dust, the bad signal that we receive, the busy users, limited budgets.
Correct.
Unclear ownerships, the decision making process. That is where the truth happens lah.
Okay, doctor. Let's go back to 2016.
That was 10 years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
You joined a delegation to Silicon Valley.
Okay.
That's betul. You visited Google, startup spaces, accelerator environments, and you saw how startups culture work there. In your article also says that the trip shifted your mental frame. You came back with a question. If they can do it, why not us? So what happened during the trip, doctor?
So Silicon Valley gave me a different feeling. If you have been to Silicon Valley lah.
Okay.
You all have been to Australia kan.
Yeah.
So Silicon Valley is something very much different.
I see.
So actually it was not just about big companies you've seen in the over there. It was the mindset. The mindset of the thinking in the Silicon Valley. People were building things. They always testing, failing, trying again. So they did not wait for perfect conditions. They did not say our country is too small. So they did not say that we need someone else to start first. They just build. So when I saw this, then I asked myself, why not Malaysia?
Okay.
Why not us? We have the talent. We have engineers. We have the universities.
Okay.
In fact, we have real problems to solve.
Correct.
And we have industries that need better data, but sometimes we are too careful in our work. So we want too much certainty before we begin.
Okay.
We want to make it perfect kan. So the startup world actually does not work that way, Zura.
Okay.
So you start with a very strong belief that you test it in the market, and then the market will humble you very quickly.
Wow, that line is actually so true, doctor. The market will humble you very quickly.
Yes, because in your mind you feel that your product is always useful lah kan.
Yes.
You think this is a great solution.
Correct.
So but the market asks different questions. Itu dia katanya, who's going to pay this?
Yeah.
How much is it? How urgent is the problem? How critical it is? Who supports your product?
Yeah.
Who decides the procurement process? Who signs the purchase order? Who maintains it after deployment?
Right.
So a founder must answer all of that lah. Not only the engineering questions about the product itself kan, Zura?
Yes. Okay, now we go back to let us talk about our first major product, Rakib. I think everyone knows about Rakib before. It was originally launched as Favor Watch. The idea came from a very human problem. Elderly parents living alone, children worrying about them, families wanting to know whether their parents are safe. The tagline was really beautiful: live alone but not left alone. How did that idea start, Doctor?
It started from empathy. So many people think that startups begin with technology. So they have this technology and they try to build it. But in fact, for us, it began with the empathy, the concern. Because we see that as our parents grow, get older, we begin to worry for them.
Yes.
Are they okay at home? Did they fall? Did they take their medication?
Correct.
Where are they now?
Yes.
When they go out, we also don't know where they are.
Exactly.
So if they live alone, the worry becomes bigger. So we wanted to create something that gave the family members peace of mind lah. So without making the elderly feel watched all the time.
Yeah.
So you tak nak lah have camera,
CCTV all the time.
CCTV all the time. They live alone but not left alone.
Yeah.
So then we develop Rakib. So this is where we develop a solution, IoT enabled smartwatch solution. So it could monitor a lot of things, vital signs. We can track location. We send SOS alerts, and also connect to a mobile app.
Right.
So the idea was simple. An elderly person who can still who still live independently lah. So they live alone, but the family would not feel completely blind.
They know what's going on.
They know what's going on.
That is actually such a strong emotional problem, Doctor. But emotional problem does not always mean easy business. What happened when you brought it to the market?
Nampak very ideal lah kan.
Correct, yeah.
So,
macam everyone will love this.
Everyone will love this.
Yeah.
So that was where we learned many lessons.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The product makes sense. The problem was real.
Yep.
But the buying behavior was quite complicated.
Correct.
So for the elderly care, who's going to pay? Is it they themselves who doesn't have the money anymore? Pension aja kan?
Yes,
If they have the money, it's okay. Is it the children's going to pay? Is it the healthcare provider? Is it the insurance company? Or maybe the government have that responsibility to do that?
Okay.
So each answer creates a different business model. Who's paying kan?
Right.
So if we sell directly to the consumers, we need a lot of marketing. We need customer support. We need device logistic to handle it. We need replacement. We need the application support and after sales service.
Right.
So if we sell to organizations pula, business, the sales cycle is going to take longer time.
Yes.
We have to meet each individual healthcare providers and all that. So it takes a long time. And then there is this hardware dependency. We buy the hardware. We did not manufacture the hardware.
Yeah.
We did not manufacture the smartwatch. So we depended on device partners lah that we had. But the problem is if the hardware changes, our software must also adjust. If the battery is weak, customers going to blame us. They don't blame the hardware manufacturer.
Correct.
So if the device signal issues, customer also blame us. So that is the reality of hardware related IoT.
So people often think also IoT is just sensor, send data to cloud. But once it becomes a product, it becomes a chain of responsibility. Hardware, connectivity, the platform, the app, the support, the billing, warranty, training, user behavior, everything lah.
Banyak kan?
Banyak.
so that is why IoT business is not for people who only like demo. They like demos, they run it, they launch it, happy kan? So a demo can be done in one day kan?
Correct.
But the real deployment teaches you for years.
Exactly.
It will teach you a lot of things, you know.
True. Then Rakib found another use case besides elderly people tadi, Hajj management.
Yeah.
This part of the story is actually really fascinating because suddenly the problem become much bigger. Millions of pilgrims, high temperatures, elderly pilgrims, lost pilgrims, health emergencies, the tents, ambulances, security team, different countries, different SIM cards, different networks. Why did you explore Hajj?
So it's a lot of things, macam banyak problem kan.
Banyak.
So but it is very interesting lah.
It is.
Because the need, it was very real.
Yeah.
So during the Hajj, we understand that many pilgrims are elderly people. So they are in a very crowded place. You imagine a very crowded place. The physical environment are very demanding. You know, some may be unwell, sick. Some may be separated from their group, you know, always get lost.
Yeah.
Some may not be even familiar with the area that they have, you know, in that place. So the ability for us to track their location, monitor their health, send alerts can be extremely very useful. So we know that. So we saw that Rakib could move beyond elderly people to, you know, at home, to do and support the Hajj punya safety lah. So in fact, I also perform not the Hajj, but I perform Umrah while wearing that kind of device. So that gave me a direct experience about how to use it. So it was not a theory. I could feel the heat. I could see the crowd. I could even test what happened to the device when the network roaming become very difficult. You know, there's no coverage.
Yes, we can't see you where you are.
So whether I'm at the mosque or at the
shopping
mall. So we discovered many real world issues lah. So we understand that SIM card is not easy to find. That's roaming capability. The battery cannot last that long. You know, data transmission intermittent. User, how to use it, the user comfort, the feel, how to support them. So these are the things you do not fully understand from your office.
So from the demos lah.
So you need to be at the field.
Yeah, correct. This is why field testing matters. Sometimes the founder must go down to the ground. So you did, Doctor. Not just ask the engineer to test, not just wait for reports. Actually wear the device. Actually use it. Actually feel the pain.
Yeah. That's how we, you know, if you want to be something which is practical, you need to feel and experience yourself, like experience the problem yourself.
Right.
So that's where your thinking changes. You stop imagining the ideal users.
Yes.
You know, you see real users.
Yep.
So real users are can feel tired.
Yeah.
They forget things when they place the watch. They do not read the manuals.
Exactly.
They want simple buttons to push. They want clear alerts to be received or be sent. So in IoT, user experience for me, I think is not only the app screen that you have. It is the whole experience, end to end.
Right.
So from wearing the device, charging it, connecting it, sending the data, receiving the alerts, and responding if something happens. So everything end to end must be there.
But conductor, then came COVID-19.
Oh, okay. That was 2020 lah.
2019, the Hajj was shut down for 2 years. Gosh, the market window closed totally. So for a startup, this kind of thing is really painful because it is outside of your control. You can have a good product, you can have trials, you can have interest. Then suddenly the world changes. What was actually going through your mind then, Doctor?
It was difficult, not only to me, but I think to all of us lah.
Yes.
Well, all of us. So a startup does not have unlimited resources. We don't have millions of ringgit.
Yeah.
So you cannot keep every product alive forever. So at some point, after we look at this after 2 years, we ask ourselves, do we continue pushing this product? Because we don't know whether the COVID will end within 2 years.
We don't know by then.
Or do we move on and do other things? So that is not an easy decision. Because people like us, the founders, very becoming emotionally attached to the products. So you remember the time you spend, the team effort that you put in, the hope, the customer conversations. It's just like a baby, when they grow up, akan dia nak buang dia kan.
Exactly.
So but the startup must be honest lah. So if the market is no longer moving, or the path is too uncertain, you don't know where it's going to be, so you must decide. So do not keep feeding something just because you love the idea lah.
That is actually painful but true. So sometimes founders do not fail because they give up too early, but sometimes they fail because they hold on too long, right, Doctor?
So bagi dah jadi anak angkat kan, bagi kat siapa?
Kan.
But anyway, there is a difference between what we call persistence and stubbornness. Okay, let me share with you, Zura.
What is it?
So persistent means you keep pursuing the mission. You have that mission, you have
Let's keep going.
Keep going because that's the mission that you believe in. Stubbornness means you refuse to change the method. You use the same method again and again, but it won't go anywhere. So our mission was not to sell one smartwatch forever. So our mission now, we know that it's to help people, organization to use their real world data to make better decisions. That's actually the mission. So when we understood that, the platform became more important than the product.
Right.
That's the difference lah. That's our next step that we
that was the turning point.
The turning point.
Favorite began to see the real value was not just Rakit, not just one app, not just one device. It was the platform underneath, the Favorite IoT platform. Can you explain, Doctor, why the platform became the main direction?
Okay, when we build Rakit, we needed a back end. The back end, what we do is that we build when we build other solutions, we needed device connectivity, data ingestion, dashboard, alerts, rules, user management, API. So at first we see these were very supporting components. Later we realized that this was the real foundation. So any IoT projects, many IoT projects need the same basic infrastructure.
Correct.
They need the platform. They need the platform that can connect the devices, connect the data, store data, view data, create alerts, manage user and all that. So why you need to rebuild everything again and again?
Correct.
So that is why we focus on Favorite platform lah. So we allow developers, system integrators, universities, enterprise to build IoT solutions much faster.
Correct.
So our principle was get started in days, not months. Very fast. Because in IoT, time matters. So if every project starts from zero, costs can go up. Delivery slows down, teams get tired, customers lose patience. So a platform helps reduce all this friction.
Okay. And the numbers are meaningful too. By January 2026, the platform right now had more than 10,300 developers across 139 countries with nearly 14,000 applications built on it. It had trained 402 professionals, with 86 obtaining formal IoT certifications. That is not just a platform, Doctor. That is already an ecosystem. Congrats, Doctor.
That was in January, but now it's in May. We have more than 10,400 plus, and again more than 140 over countries lah. So we are very proud of that.
Yes.
So thank you to all the team members who have been doing this.
Thank you for supporting as well.
Yes, especially because many users come from education. That's one thing. We are seeing students, lecturers, universities, training centers. For us that is important, but we also want Malaysia and the region to build the IoT capability. We need more talent, so that's why we work on education sector. So the platform is not only for commercial deployment that we think of, so it's also for learning lah. So we understand when the students learn using the platform, they begin to understand how the IoT workflow. So not only just Arduino blinking with LED kan. So not only sending one value, multiple values. So they learn how the device, everything puts together and make it real. So this is how the next generation of IoT developers, we want to make them more ready lah.
Okay, Doctor, in your article also mentioned other favorite products: Rakit, FavorSense, Discover. Some people might look at these products and say, oh, they ended, so they failed. But the story says they were not failures, they were experiments. What did each one teach favorite, Doctor?
This is where I think people always have that thought, every failure is just a failure. So it's something what we can learn from them. So every product taught us something. So for example, Rakit taught us about the hardware dependency. We understand about the healthcare related behavior of people. We understand elderly care, buying decisions, and we also understand the harsh field challenges. Another product that we have, FavorSense, it taught us about smart city bias. So we built it as an incident reporting application for cities. On paper it makes sense lah. So what happens is that people can report the potholes, broken lights, illegal dumping, other public issues. But suddenly we found out that local councils already have some existing complaint management systems. So even if those systems were not perfect, to replace them was not that easy. So government bias move very slow lah. So these are procedures, budgets, politics get involved, internal processes. So they have different priorities. So we learn that a large market does not always mean a fast market.
Correct. Yes, that is a very important point, Doctor. A big problems does not automatically means quick sales.
Correct. So then Discover taught us about competition. So we built an app called Discover, competition from existing habits lah. So it was a location sharing app, a group coordination app. So within the group you can share your activities within there. But users already have WhatsApp group kan. So they already have Google Maps. So the questions became, why would they install another app that looks very similar? So the product had to be much more different and more useful. Otherwise, people will stay with what they already know lah.
So Rakit taught hardware and buyer behavior. FavorSense taught government and smart city decision speed. Discover taught user habits and competition from existing tools.
Exactly. And all these lessons went back into the platform that we are having now. So that is why I do not see them as a wasted effort. They help us understand and make us become more clearer. They shape our platform thinking. They shape our rules engine, hierarchy, user management, partner strategy. So a product may end, but the learning continues.
Now, favorite is moving from IoT to AIoT. For listeners who are new to this, IoT means devices collect and send real-world data. AIoT means that data is not only displayed, it can be analyzed, it can detect patterns, it can support actions. Favorite uses the logic, connect, learn, detect, and act. Can you explain this direction, Doctor?
IoT alone was once enough. People were excited when they see the data on the dashboard, kan? So they see all the temperature, humidity, vibration, location. But now just seeing the data is not enough.
Correct.
So people will ask, so what?
Yes.
So if the vibration goes up, what does it mean?
Exactly.
So if the vibration increases, is the machine about to fail? They don't know. So if energy usage spikes, where is the waste? So if the water level rises, when should we alert the people? Kan? So this is where AIoT comes in place lah.
Okay.
So AI helps us to move from the raw data that we have into early signals. So early signals means they will from early signals that they have to turn into decisions, and then from the decisions to turn into action. So the future of IoT is not about collecting more data. It is about making the data more useful.
Yes.
So that's where AI comes in place.
Right. So, and this is where many IoT projects struggle. They stop at dashboards. The sensor sends data. The dashboard looks nice. Everyone takes photo. Very nice, kan? Then after 3 months, no one check the dashboard anymore.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot because dashboards do not automatically create behavior change. So someone must act upon that, receive the data, receive the alerts, take the response, own the response, in fact, own the ownerships, change the maintenance schedule if they want to.
Okay.
So someone must able to reduce the wastage, energy wastage. In fact, someone must make decision.
Yes.
Make decision based on the data that they receive. But then OT helps because it can reduce the noise. It only highlight what matters, not all the alerts lah.
Right.
So, but the organization still needs people and processes. So, technology alone cannot fix weak ownership. You cannot just depend the technology to resolve everything. You need to have people to go on the ground and resolve it.
To respond on it, huh?
To respond.
Yeah. Doctor, you also talk about the favorite partner network. It says favorite now has 39 partners across 16 countries. This includes software partners, hardware partners, service partners, training partners, and also distribution partners. So why is the partner strategy so important, Doctor?
I mean, because Favorite cannot do everything alone.
Yes.
We cannot do everything alone. IT is very broad.
Betul.
So there are many industries now, smart cities, agriculture, manufacturing, energy, you name it. Logistics, education, buildings. Wow, siapa nak buat tu?
We're not all the experts in all those.
Yeah, so each industry have different problems, different devices, hardware, users, budgets.
Yep.
So we need the partners who actually understands the local market. We need the system integrators, the hardware suppliers, the software developers, the trainers themselves, also the regional distributors. So that model, the partner model which Favorite have is actually to become a platform that others can build on. So we do not need to directly win every project. We don't go to every tender.
Yes.
So actually, in fact, we need to help the partners win the projects, but they use our Favorite platform.
Correct.
So that creates the scale.
So instead of Favorite saying we will build every solution, the better model is you bring your customer, you bring your domain knowledge, you bring your devices. Favorite provides the platform. Together we deliver faster.
Yes, that's the model. So we don't compete with our partners.
Yes.
So many system integrators do not want to build their own platform from scratch lah kan. It is very expensive, time consuming, you need maintenance, security, all this API. So a lot of things, you need documentation support just to build your in-house platform. But if they can use Favorite as the foundation, they can focus on solving the customer's problem. They can build only maybe the service layer based on the vertical that they're working on lah. So that is better for everyone. Yeah.
Right. I remember you saying we don't compete, we complete.
Yeah.
That's a really great one. Okay, let us return to the title, Doctor. Building an IoT startup after 50. Some people might think starting late is a disadvantage. Less energy, more family responsibility, less appetite for risk. But your story suggests there are hidden advantages. What are they, Doctor?
Okay. First, credibility. Okay. So when you have spent years in the industry, people know you, not just repeating buzzword, showing slides. So you have seen real systems. Yeah. So you have worked in the real organizations, you understand the constraints. Yeah. So second part is that the network. So after decades of working, you know people across the sectors. That helps open doors. So of course, opening doors is not the same as closing the sales, Azura. I can open door for you, but you need to close the sales. But at least it helps start conversation.
Yes, easily.
Okay.
Yes.
And third part is judgment. I mean, judgment is about wise, very wise person.
Yes.
So you can sense when a trend is just a hype. Okay. And when it is a real potential.
Right.
So you can also detect when a customer is not serious lah. They just want to pick your brain. They think that they have, they want to show everything that their plan, that they want to make it big. In fact, they are not serious at all lah.
Right.
So at least that saves time. So that judgment is important. And fourth, the storytelling. Okay. At this stage, I think if you have lived enough stories, you can connect technology to the human experience. That is very important. So because people do not remember technical specs. So, do you remember all the technical specs of our platform?
No, I don't.
Every time when we talk about this, we have to open up the documentation and what our platform subscription, what are the features. You don't remember the technical specs.
Yes.
So as much as they remember stories, so when you talk about stories, they will remember this. And this is what we are telling today is our story journey.
Right.
So they will know exactly how we build the platform.
And content creation also becoming part of your business strategy, right, Doctor? Your blogs, your LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok even, ebooks, podcast, IoT World, your personal blog. Some founders separate personal brand from company brand, but in your case, they support each other.
I think in B2B, trust is very critical. People may not buy immediately, but they watch, they read, they listen, they observe. Consistency. Content actually helps to build trust before sales happen. And some people have made a study that you need to get into their mind 21 times before they even buy, making decision.
Wow.
Even there's a study say take you about 200 days to get a sales close.
Even longer.
So that's B2B lah.
Yes.
So when people search for IoT in Malaysia lah kan, so IoT ke smart cities, I want them to find our thinking, kan? Not only our product page, because before customers trust a platform, they often trust the people behind it. That is why I keep writing lah, Zura. So sometimes people ask, hey, doctor, why write so much?
Entah, you got time ah?
You got time ah? You don't do any job. Hey, just writing. What are you doing? Kan?
Yeah.
Okay. So my answer is simple. In fact, writing is actually part of the market education. Marketing is brand building for us. Writing is actually a memory that wants to lock into people's mind.
Right.
So writing is also a way for me, Zura, how I clarify my own thinking. Without writing, my mind can be everywhere. So when I write, then I know, okay, this is how I want to do it.
I see. So your article actually ends with a powerful question, Doctor. What does it actually cost to wait? Not only financial cost, but opportunity cost. The cost of knowledge accumulated but never tested. The cost of problems identified but never addressed. The cost of asking why not us but never acting on it. This feels like a message not only for startup founders but also for professionals, lecturers, engineers and also industry leaders. So what would you say to someone who has an idea but keeps waiting?
So I would say be honest with yourself. So are you waiting because you need more preparation, or are you waiting because you're afraid? Yeah. So there is a difference.
Okay.
Preparation is good. Fear is normal. So but waiting forever is dangerous. Okay. You may think you are avoiding the risk, but you're also losing time. So if you have a deep domain knowledge and you see a real problem, you can start small. So do not quit your job tomorrow without thinking. At least do not build a full product immediately. Talk to the users, validate the pain, build a simple prototype first. Okay? Write about the idea, find early partners, test the market. So the important thing is to move on.
Okay.
So clarity comes from action, not from thinking alone. Because a lot of times people think and think, but they
Then after that, do nothing.
do nothing and you cannot get anything from there lah.
Exactly.
So you take the action.
Right, that is actually a good reminder for all of us. Many people are stuck because they want perfect confidence before they start. But confidence often comes after movement, not before, right, Doctor?
Yeah. So when I started Fabric, Surah, I did not know everything. So I still do not know everything lah.
Yes.
Okay. We have been discussing a lot of things, kan? I still do not know everything. So a founder is always learning. Yeah, the market changes, the technology changes, customer also change, the funding changes, competition changes. So a lot of things changes.
Right.
So but the mission must be strong enough for us to keep going. I think for us the mission is quite clear: to help organizations to connect, learn from, and act on real world data that they have.
Yes.
So this mission remains. The products that we have may change, the platform may grow.
Yep.
So okay, the market may shift slightly here and there, but the mission gives direction.
A clear direction.
A true north, kita panggil lah.
Oh, true lah. Okay. So, Doctor, before we close, I mean, there's no comments yet. I mean, you guys, I mean, if you do have any questions to ask Dr. Mazlan here, when he starts the IT startup at 56, Doctor?
56.
Maybe you all pun ada yang tengah
57 now.
thinking, still thinking, should I not ask Doctor? Okay, while waiting. So before we close, let us make this practical, Doctor. For anyone watching or listening, especially those who are thinking about starting something later in life, what lessons can they take from this favorite story? Maybe let me list one first, Doctor. Then maybe you can add later.
Okay, kita tukar lah.
I pun dapat lesson juga ni.
Okay.
My first lesson is, do not waste your past experience. Okay. Sometimes people think their past career is separate from their future business. Actually, your past can become your unfair advantage.
Yeah, that's connecting the dots lah, Zura, kan? So second lesson I would think is that start with the real problem. So not a fashionable technology.
Fashionable technology,
Everyone jump AI, but they don't know what exactly they are trying to solve. So for us, example, Rakib started because families worry about their elderly parents. So that is a real emotional problem. So but then the technology must serve the problem lah.
Right.
So not the other way around.
I see. Now the third lesson, do field testing. Do not trust only office demos. The real world will expose things you never imagined. Battery issues, network problems, user confusion, maintenance gaps, operational delay. Ni semua kena do testing.
I think that's the real test of your product lah when you go out to the market.
Right.
So okay, on the fourth part in my side lah, is actually do not fall in love with only one product.
Okay, tak boleh
Fall in love with the mission. The products may change, Zura. Markets may close. You know, macam kita buat market hush at that time, they close lah kan. So user behavior may surprise you. This might be not our user, so it may surprise you because they have a different pain point. So a founder must know when to pivot.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I learned the word pivot so much during this time lah. Pivot. Oh gosh. Okay. Alright. The fifth lesson. Build something reusable. Favorite's biggest lesson was that the platform underneath the product had long-term value. A single application may end, but a strong platform can support many applications.
So that's why we build a platform
horizontal.
For others to allow building their own vertical.
Yep, that's right.
So the sixth lesson, I would say, educate the market. So do not sell. In fact, we thought we were going to sell, but actually the idea is to educate the market. Teach them write them articles to that, so that you also speak to them, explain clearly. You can create a lot of contents. So when the market understands the problem better, they are more ready to buy lah.
Okay. Now, 7 lesson. Use partners to scale. Do not try to do everything alone. In IoT, partners are not optional. They are part of the growth model. So yes, I'm still looking out for more partners to work with us.
So it must be a win-win situation lah, Zura.
Exactly.
I know that partners want to access to our market, but we also like our system or platform to access their market too.
Exactly.
So it must be a win-win situation.
Yep.
So I think the last lesson lah, the 8th one, that's why the topic about building a startup at the age of after 50 kan. So for me, starting late is not a failure. Sometimes it means you are starting with a deeper wisdom. Yeah, kan? But do not wait forever lah.
Very wise ni.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, maybe I don't have the energy or the hoodie like the younger people, but do not wait forever. There is a point where thinking must become action.
Okay.
Yeah?
Lepas ni doktor pakai hoodie kot. Okay, doctor. So today's episode is not only about favorite, it is actually about courage. It is about reinvention. It is about taking decades of experience and asking, what can I build with this? Right? It is about product failures that are not really failures. It is about pivots that reveals the stronger path. It is about moving from devices to platform, from platform to ecosystem, from IoT to AIoT. And maybe most importantly, it is about not allowing age to become an excuse. Many people say, alamak, it is too late lah, kan? But maybe the real question is, too late for what? Too late to learn? Too late to build? Too late to try? Too late to solve a real problem? So I think favorite story give us a different answers. It says experience still has power. It says a late start can still be a strong start. It says the dots may not make sense today, but one day when we look back, they may connect beautifully. Kan, Doctor?
Yeah, Zura, I think this episode of podcast, you have put very beautiful words inside the podcast. So very wise tips.
Oh my God. Okay, because I'm 50. Okay.
So I like this episode, because it's very personal to both of us, building the startup, and there's a lot of experience that we are learning lah during this phase of period. So it's about nearly 10 years lah, almost 10 years. So I hope this episode encourages the people. Not everyone needs to build a startup.
Yes.
Okay, some of them have the courage and also the DNA of building a startup. But everyone can ask this: what knowledge have I collected? What problem do I have? Do I keep on noticing?
Okay.
So what idea have I delayed for too long? So what small steps can I take now? Because sometimes the next chapter does not begin when life becomes easy, Zura. So it begins when we finally stop waiting. Yeah, wise words,
Wise sangat and very beautifully said, Doctor. Alright, so I guess there's no comment right now. Maybe later. Okay. So to everyone watching and listening, thank you for joining our favorite Sembang Santai episode 49. If you are a student, engineer, lecturer, system integrators, entrepreneurs, or someone thinking of starting something meaningful, we hope this episode give you a little push. Okay, maybe not a loud push, maybe just a small voice saying, why not me? Why not now? Why not us? So to learn more about Favorite and how we help organizations build IoT and AIoT solutions, you can always visit us at our website www.favorite.com, or you can also email us at info@favorite.com. Well, until we meet again in the next episode, take care, keep learning, keep building, and keep connecting your data for better decisions. So for those of you who have missed this earlier, you can check out our recorded Favorite Sembang Santai podcast at Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube channels. Okay? See you in the next episode. Assalamualaikum and bye.